Public investments in our nation's infrastructure literally lay the foundation for long-term economic growth, and we've seen catastrophic failures to invest in the breach of the levees in New Orleans, the collapse of the bridge in Minneapolis, as well as blackouts that have struck major cities in recent years.
Economists and public officials participating in a policy forum at the Economic Policy Institute agree that an immediate investment in the nation's crumbling infrastructure is what could boost the sagging U.S. economy and improve the quality of life for Americans.
With our economy slowing, infrastructure investment can also boost the economy by creating jobs in the short run.
The severity of the problem is not in doubt, according to Pennsylvania Governor Edward Rendell.
The infrastructure of our major American cities is just a few years away from total devastation and total crumbling. We have deferred doing something about our infrastructure to the point that it is almost too challenging and too daunting to do something about. But if we sit here and do nothing for the next 30 or 40 years, it will be too late for America.
Rendell has been working with California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg to generate grassroots support for federal investment in infrastructure projects.
Where are we going to look? Well, I would suggest the first place to look, and not the only place, but the first place to look is to the federal government. Our federal government, unlike most of the developed nations in this world, does a lousy job in supporting this nation's infrastructure. State and local governments account for 75% of infrastructure spending. If you know anything about state and local taxation, we're basically all at the limit.
Many in Congress are pushing for an infrastructure investment program, including Oregon Congressman Earl Blumenauer.
As near as I can tell, we're investing less today than at any time previously in our history. And what is frustrating is it turns our back on a grand tradition of broad vision of infrastructure in this country. It's time for a new vision that speaks to our needs today.
Mary Filardo of the 21st Century Fund says that by investing in school facilities, we are improving education and teacher productivity, boosting our ability to compete in the global economy.
School infrastructure is central to any discussion about U.S. infrastructure. We can eliminate a backlog of deferred maintenance and repair. And what we suggest here, and we've worked with EPI on this, is $20 billion to address the current health, safety, maintenance, and repair problems that we have in particularly our school districts serving high proportions of low-income children.
Mark Lloyd from the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights described the impact of deficient broadband and wireless technology on American citizens and businesses.
This is a major challenge in rural America. If they are going to keep the jobs that they've got in their communities, they must have this infrastructure. And we have a major challenge with the fact that in many cases the infrastructure is just not there. If we went to Germany today or Japan or China and we saw what they were doing in terms of broadband services and wireless communications, maybe another Eisenhower would say, well, if they can do it, if they can have federal investment working with local provinces and the local governments and whatever to make sure that we can build out the modern roads, the electromagnetic spectrum so that people can communicate effectively, then maybe we can actually build these networks.
Tax rebate checks went out the last week of April, but according to Ross Eisenbray, Vice President, Economic Policy Institute, investing in infrastructure would be a more realistic stimulus plan.
If we did a real stimulus program, building the roads and bridges, doing the repairs of decrepit roads and bridges, of a real school infrastructure spending program on the order of $20 billion, investing in sewage lines and waste treatment plants, mass transit. We could put hundreds of thousands of people back to work, including many of the 360,000 construction workers who lost jobs in the last year. It would be, every dollar of it would be an immediate stimulus in the local economy. It would be putting people back to work here in the United States. It would be so much more effective than what the president did.
I think when you look at shared prosperity, it goes to what type of nation do we want to have. If we want to have a nation that has the brightest future for our children and our grandchildren, it's time to act in so many different ways. It's time to act educationally, it's time to act in terms of energy. but it's certainly time to act in infrastructure.